third, final presenter of the afternoon, we have Tim Ranzetta. Tim is joining us from Next Gen Personal Finance. Tim, are you there?
Yes, I am, Hillary.
Hello, Tim. How are you?
I'm great, thanks.
I am sending controls your way. I'm seeing your screen, so we are doing well.
Perfect. All right. Well, Hillary, thanks for the opportunity to speak today and share some of the resources that the nonprofit I founded, Next Gen Personal Finance, is currently providing to personal finance teachers. So my goal today, very simply, because I know a PD is only successful for a teacher if you can walk away with resources you can use in your classroom. So that's my hope over the next 25 minutes, to take you on a whirlwind tour of our website and hopefully give you some ideas that you can bring back. So my personal finance teaching journey started with this screen here, which probably looks familiar to many of you. I had volunteered to start a personal finance program at a neighboring high school in East Palo Alto, California. This high school was focused on first-gen college students, and I thought I could just search on Google and I'd find some resources and I'd be able to cobble a curriculum together. Boy, was I wrong. Google, I think, is both a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing that we now have access to all the world's information. When I was growing up, that was the Encyclopedia Britannica, and we could only afford through letter L. So there's some topics I was less familiar with. But it's a blessing that way that we have access, but it's also a curse because we have access to all the world's information, which is incredibly challenging. So after dozens of searches and hours spent, I was finally able to cobble together 25 hours of programming of content for the students, and boy, what a difference that made in my life in terms of seeing how excited these students were about the topic. And I always had in the back of my head that there were thousands, if not tens of thousands, of teachers doing the same thing, and wouldn't it be great at some point to start a nonprofit? Because many of you probably feel like this person in the cartoon when you go to Google late on a Sunday night looking for videos or articles or something current to share with your students. You hit the search button and it feels like a data tsunami. And for example, I just typed in credit card lessons to see how many results would come back, and you see 17.2 million results. And so it's an incredibly inefficient, I mean, I realize the algorithm for Google is pretty effective, but you're still spending a lot of time diving into resources, unsure of the quality. And I think the biggest frustration is when you spend a large amount of time and aren't able to find what you're looking for. There's no guarantees. So when I started NGPF 2 years ago, I went out and talked to a lot of personal finance teachers and said, hey, there's a ton of resources out there already. What are you looking for? What are the pain points you currently have? And so we really ended up settling on four what we call the 4 C's in what teachers were looking for, and we built our nonprofit around it. So the first was they wanted things to be curated. Just like this individual's panning for gold, they wanted somebody else to help them find the gold that's available on the web, because there are some nuggets out there. There's some great resources when you spend the time to look for it. And so they wanted somebody who was an educator, had spent time in the classroom, and understood quality. So we do that. The second thing they wanted was something current. The world of financial services is changing dramatically, and that's kind of exemplified by this chart here, which really shows just the what's called fintech, financial technology startups that are targeting your students. They're targeting millennials, and some of these companies you may be familiar with, but many you're probably not. And so we looked at this as a great opportunity to create a project so that teachers wouldn't have to go out and do research on apps like Acorn or Wealthfront or Credit Karma, but we created a project, very open-ended project, where students would, we need to teach students to think critically. What better way to do that than let them be app reviewers? Let them go out and review these companies and teach them how to ask the right questions. So that's one of our most popular, just an example of kind of how we stay current with what's happening in the world of financial services. They also told us they wanted it to be comprehensive. They didn't want to jump from website to website. because there wasn't a complete set of resources available on one site. And having said that, they also said, make it, if it's going to be comprehensive, make it easy to find. And so my hope is when I show you the website later, you'll get a sense that not only are we comprehensive, and this word cloud kind of shows you all the content and professional development opportunities we provide. Not only are we comprehensive, but it's easy to find things that you can use. And the last thing they said was, you know what, my classroom is different. And there are specific needs that I have in my classroom that might not gel right with your curriculum, so let me customize it. And so basically all of our content, so this would be lesson plans, this would be projects, activities, everything we create is in Google Docs. So you have the ability, there's no pride of ownership here. We want you to be able to create resources that you can use in your classroom too. And then there's the final thing, which Colleen mentioned earlier also. They said, we don't have a budget for this stuff, so please make it free. And what I can tell you today is we are free and we always will be. Those wondering how we do that, I had the good fortune of being an entrepreneur earlier in my career, and having had some success, I can't imagine a better investment that I can make than to help increase the financial capability of youth in this country. I was incredibly fortunate to have a father and mother who taught me all of these lessons at a very young age. My dad was a banker, and I opened my first CD at the age of 7 after getting a job walking my neighbor's dogs. And I'm forever grateful for what he taught me, both he and my mom, and this is my way of paying it forward. So you may be asking, well, who's using NGPF today? And I'm happy to say, even with almost no marketing budget whatsoever, this just kind of gives you a map of what we've seen in the month of January. The darker states indicate greater activity. And we're happy to say thousands of teachers in all 50 states are using our resources, and that's primarily been through word of mouth. And fortunately, when people search on Google, they often stumble upon some of the resources that we've created. So in terms of Pennsylvania, when I went in and looked at our Google Analytics, which basically tracks geographically kind of where folks are using our content, what came out in Pennsylvania were clusters in Danville, Dallastown, obviously your two major cities, Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, and other towns, Mannheim and Hollidaysburg. So many of these teachers we've never spoken to, which I think, again, is a testament to how easy it is to go to our website to pull materials, pull resources off that you need. What are teachers saying? I think the challenge as an entrepreneur is you always wonder. We're devoting thousands of hours to creating this website and putting content out there for teachers. If we build it, will they come? And this was a testimonial we received from a teacher about a year ago, and I think it captures the essence for many of you, the fact that you're always looking for new ideas and activities regardless of the number of years you've been teaching. Personal finance is one of those topics, I think, that attracts teachers who love the search process, love looking for things. And I think the final point she made, which was my vision for the organization, is that we would become a one-stop shop. So I'm going to quickly go through the series of slides here. And as Hillary mentioned earlier, in the slide deck that will be available to you, all of the items you see underlined will be links directly to our website. So just to provide a little bit of context here for what you're going to see in the next 10 or 12 slides is I wanted to give you a sense of what are the use cases, how are teachers using our content today. And so I'm going to identify both the content we provide, and the numbers in parentheses you'll see are the number of those items that we currently have, and we're constantly adding to that, so that's growing. And then I wanted to pick out one specific, in this case, one specific activity or one specific piece of content that is particularly popular, and then show you how it aligns with the standards you currently have around personal finance. So Many teachers told us, hey, I already have a curriculum, but I need to find ways to engage my students in more hands-on activities and projects. And so we created both a project bank as well as an activity bank. In terms of how we differentiate the two, projects tend to be require more time in the classroom. They tend to be more undefined, kind of require more creativity. Activities tend to be really drilling down on one specific learning objective we're trying to achieve. And our most popular activity is this creative salary-based budget where students, it involves some spreadsheet work, but it's basically a very well scaffolded activity where students take on the role of somebody who's graduated from high school and or college and has to create a real-life budget, starting with picking a career and a job and then having to build a budget based on that salary. So that's one use case. Another is teachers wanted more thought-provoking assessment questions, less on rote memorization and more on critical thinking. So we have an assessment bank. Each of our lessons has 10 multiple choice questions to check for understanding. Overall, we have a pre-test and a post-test, so that's a 50-question pre and post. And then for each unit, we have a 25-question assessment also. So all in all, over 800 questions. This is the only part of our website that is password protected for obvious reasons. Teachers asked us not to allow students to get to this part of the site, and so there's a simple registration process on our website in order to get assessments, and there's a similar process in terms of answer keys. Those of you interested in getting answer keys would just email Laura Matchett, who's our our teacher engagement director. That's Laura at nextgenpersonalfinance.org. So that's assessments. Teachers also told us that videos were really important. Students love videos, but they needed to be short, engaging, and informative. And so we went and created a video library that currently has over 300 videos in it. And actually, let me just take you to see exactly what the video library looks like. And so this is kind of, again, on our website. Under curriculum, video library, you'll see kind of how it's organized. You get a description. You can sort by financial topic or publisher. And I think we have, for these 300 videos, over 100 different publishers, as well as video length. And we primarily try and keep those in the 1, 2, 3 minute duration. However, some are longer. And then with each of those videos, we typically link to a blog post with a series of questions. So we're not just sending you to a video, but we're also giving you some ideas on discussion questions you can use in the classroom. Our most popular video is one, I know teachers often struggle with investing. There's a great 3-minute video of LeBron James asking Warren Buffett for investment advice. So that's what I provided there. Case studies were another thing we heard from teachers. They wanted to create richer problems, taking a more holistic approach when it comes to personal finance rather than just on a unit-by-unit basis. And they also liked the fact that students needed to get used to making decisions with incomplete information. So we created 10 case studies there, our most popular one being one called Save Me. Teachers also asked us to create questions of the day. They wanted to get their class started off on the right foot, and so we've created 37 questions of the day, and I'll just quickly take you to see what that looks like. So again, these are organized by topic, and so and these are all questions of the day that we've gleaned from recent headlines. So you'll often find us pulling data from research reports or other news articles focused on these topics. So again, top question here is, how can Facebook make you poorer? And that just leads to a rich discussion about how what people see on Facebook can influence their buying behaviors. So that's, we have 37 of those questions of the day. Currently, one of the more popular ones there is this question: how much more do college grads make? So to the extent you're having a conversation about the value of higher education, that question of the day might be a great way to get the class started. Other teachers told us, you know what, my students really struggle with analyzing data. And so we created a product we call Data Crunches. And these are simply a chart, a graph, a data set with 5 questions of increasing difficulty. And so we're getting students to interpret information. And so one of our more popular ones there is we always kick off our savings or investing unit with the question, you know, really helping students understand why it's so important to invest while they're young. And that data crunch really helps show the impact. That's a graph showing what happens if, you know, for somebody who starts saving at the age of 25, if somebody waits, kind of does a comparison with somebody who starts 10 years later. So that kind of, in a very simple graphical way, shows why you want to start saving earlier to take advantage, the full advantage of compounding returns. Games, games, games. We all know about gamification and how students are excited at the opportunity to play games, and that's a good way for them to learn. The good news here is that what I've discovered in the last 2 years, I'm constantly on the hunt for engaging games. So if you have any that you use and really enjoy in the classroom, feel free to send them on to me. But what I've discovered with new media is they're trying to build stickiness on their websites. As a result, they're creating better and better interactives. I just want to show you quickly what our interactive library looks like. These are some really fun games. Again, what we've done here is not just give you a link to the game, but created either a series of questions or ideas for an activity, or if we've actually formalized an activity, you'll see in the handout column here. And so the first item listed, if you are teaching budgeting, this is a great game called Spent. And it's basically an interactive that takes 10 to 15 minutes for students to play. And the best way I would describe it is it immerses students into the life of folks living paycheck to paycheck. And it really does a nice job there. You're trying to survive for 30 days, and it's very much driven by students having to make decisions around employment, for example, and then issues around insurance, auto insurance, and health insurance. And they see firsthand in the experience kind of what the consequences of choosing to take insurance or not is. And that's one of my favorite games to play in the classroom, because it always leads to a lot of buzz and a lot of interest and a lot of reflection, frankly, as students get a handle on, you know, why budgeting is important and why having emergency savings is also. This is a product we actually just rolled out in the last month, and it struck me that we always talk about, in fact, Colleen mentioned it earlier, the importance of reading the fine print, and yet I didn't feel like we actually were teaching students how to do that. And so we created a product. We call it Fine Print. Not a lot of creativity there. And basic goal here is to help students read and analyze real-world financial documents. So, for example, this deciphering your credit card agreement, what we've done is taken what's called the Schumer box, which, as a result of new legislation, I believe in the last 6 or 7 years, requires credit card companies to distill the key terms and conditions into basically a 2-page document. So what we've done with the fine print is take actual financial documents and then a series of 10 challenging multiple choice questions to see if students can really interpret the information there. So that's an exciting new product that we have. We also heard from teachers about topics that they didn't feel were being covered adequately or where they currently had gaps in their existing curriculum. And so we created specific lessons around identity theft, philanthropy, and careers. And so one of our most popular lessons in the career area is, how do I get my first job? And then one of the last things I wanted to talk about around content is this issue of current events in personal finance and how do you stay on top of them. So I kind of have as a goal every day to write 2 blog posts. So you can actually see today I've already published 2, and it's kind of funny that it dovetails well with Colleen's discussion about identity theft. I actually am always searching for information or news stories about credit cards, and it always strikes me when I look that there is, when you search for credit card under in Google and you go to the news element within Google, you'll always find a lot of stories about identity theft. And I thought this was an interesting little mini activity. Students could go out and do a web quest, and I've kind of put together a short assignment here, and it's really trying getting students to understand the various ways that the bad guys are able to get access to credit cards. Some which are as simple as people leaving their wallets in cars, not a really good idea, and some are more high tech, like in this example I think there was a story about people pulling credit card scammers on airplanes. And so it just gives students, again, self-discovery for them to figure out how this is taking place. So I notice I've got about 3 minutes left, so I'm going to quickly finish up here. The other element of what we do is not just content related, but we also have a community of teachers that we want to serve in a variety of ways. And so teachers, personal finance teachers in particular, are often very isolated in the building. They may be you may be the only one teaching the topic, and you always want to collaborate with others. And so basically what we've created here are products. You know, we have a flash survey that goes out every other month where we're asking teachers, and we usually get hundreds of responses here about how you use technology, what curriculum you're currently using in the classroom, a variety of topics, but helps you understand what the community of teachers are also doing. I also have a weekly podcast show where I bring in experts. So I recently talked to Steve Penley, who's a teacher out of Illinois, about his blended learning curriculum. And I've had dozens of teachers on board on the podcast to talk about specific topics, implementing case studies in the classroom, favorite tech tools and resources, a variety of topics I think you'd find very interesting. And then we also have a Q&A forum. Another way we work with teachers is through something we call a professional learning community, in which small groups of teachers, 3 to 4, collaborate virtually. Each teacher contributes an artifact. It could be a project or an activity that they're interested in improving upon. They contribute that to the group reviews it, and then every week for about 4 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, depending on how many people are in the group, there's a 30-minute collaborative period facilitated by Jessica, who's experienced teacher and principal, does a really great job facilitating that group. So we've gotten tremendous feedback and continue to offer that. Here's just another way of looking at our curriculum. From teachers who use us as their primary curriculum, we have 11 units and 65 lessons, to those who are looking more at supplemental. And then professional development, the variety of services we provide, from in-person, and we're actually going to be sending out applications. We're going to send out information about our Summer Institute, which we held for the first time last summer. We bring together 12 teachers from across the country, all expenses paid, to spend 2.5 days with us here in Palo Alto, California, and you can find more information about that on our website. In closing, to provide a little bit of incentive for you to dive a little bit deeper and also compensate you for it, we've created a scavenger hunt. And so let me just take you to, basically this is a way for you to get around our website. And so it's basically 9 questions, and again, this will be available to you, I believe, along with the presentation. But the goal is to get you to kind of explore on your own our website, and the questions are geared towards your interests. And so if you complete just this one pager, what's in it for you is a $25 Amazon gift card. So I have the instructions here. If you get that completed by next week, the 6th of February, we'll send you a $25 Amazon gift card. So that's all I have. Any questions, Hillary?
Yeah, we had just a couple. One was curious, how do you keep all of these great resources up to date? Is somebody, searching, making sure the links are current within the lessons, what have you?
Yeah, so we have actually, there's a service where we've loaded all of the links on our website into a massive document, and every night they run a search to find out whether there are dead links or not. And we kind of hustle as quickly as possible to change them. Occasionally we miss something and a teacher notifies us, and it's kind of, we have a small team here of 4 people, and it's all hands on deck, and so we're immediately mobilizing to get a new link to that teacher. On the issue of kind of how we keep things current, we pretty much have a cycle now where every 2 to 3 years, for example, we just revamped our savings unit. That happened last month, or actually earlier this month. We went through our existing savings unit and redid it because we find new resources. I mean, one great thing about forcing myself to write 2 blog posts every day is you come across a lot of interesting content out there, and so we want to make sure we've got the most up-to-date information. Having said that, there are other things that change more frequently, like student loan interest rates. Every year there's a new figure for that based on, I think it's indexed off of the 10-year Treasury note, and so we've got to update that when that's announced. There's new rules around filing the FAFSA. We have that already incorporated. So we're kind of, and then healthcare, obviously, with new healthcare plans coming down the line, we're waiting to see kind of what happens there, but we would look to adjust that quickly too. So we pride ourselves on staying current, and that's kind of the way we do it.
All right. Quite a few comments of thanks and love it. One loves the professional learning community. Another question, what academic standards are you currently aligning to in your lessons?
Yeah, so currently it's Jumpstart, the Jumpstart national standards. We kind of looked at the national standards as well as statewide standards, and it felt like that was the most comprehensive. And given the fact that we want to have scale, we want to be able to serve teachers in all 50 states, we felt like that was the most comprehensive. Having said that, with with the projects, we've actually aligned to Common Core state standards to the extent that those have specific guidelines around skills. Skills also, we've included those in the projects and activities.
Great. We have another somebody giving a testimonial, I guess, that they were in a PLC with Jessica last year and loved it. So you get
great.
Thumbs up to pass that compliment along. And another person just saying that they can't wait to try out the site, and very, very happy to have learned about it. So just out of curiosity, if our attendees, I know this is a resource that we haven't talked about before, if you'll use that raise your hand feature, if this is the first time that you're hearing about Next Gen Personal Finance, I'd be curious how many of those hands go up. So I'm seeing quite a few of them. So it looks, just my quick observation is probably at least half. This is completely new for Tim. So thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. And thank you for sharing the information with our teachers.
Thanks.